Hello, and welcome back to Sakura Moyu, and let's continue where we last stopped.
私も二人にお名前を送ってもいい?
It was the morning, several weeks after I came here. Living with the two, who had no names, was a little inconvenient. They themselves didn't seem to mind, and it didn't seem like they had ever felt inconvenience before, but I told them the names I had thought of with all my might. Soul for the gentle one. Knock for the not so gentle one. The gentle Kaibutsu asked me what they meant.
ソルは太陽、ナハトは夜。正解かな?
I nodded. That's right. Words from a distant land. It's so far away that I, as a small child, even doubt if such a country truly exists, and learn the meaning of the words from a picture book, so I know them. They seem so opposite, so I thought words with nearly opposite meanings would be fitting.
そっか。君は賢いんだね。まだまだこんなに小さいのにさ。
He told me to come, and I nodded. And I sat on the gentle Kaibutsu's lap. This has been my designated spot for a few days now. That night. The night he held my hand and listened to me the whole time. Since then, I stopped being afraid of this Kaibutsu. This person is a gentle Kaibutsu. I could truly feel that in my heart. He hugs me tightly from behind. That makes me so happy. Because it was something I'd never been able to get, no matter how much I asked before. I wonder, did the child who disappeared along clung to him like this? I found myself thinking something like that, somewhere in my heart.
なんだよその目は。別にいいだろう。私たちはすぐにこの子を抱きしめられなくなっちゃうんだ。だから今のうちなんだよ。ああ、それとも羨ましいのかな？
バカを言うな。
Nonsense. The not so gentle Kaibutsu snorted, then stuffed out his cigarette in the ashtray.
こいつが太陽なら、俺は月なんじゃないのか。正反対というのなら普通そうなる。多分な。それが気になっただけだ。
The not so gentle Kaibutsu said in a low voice, his gaze still fixed on the newspaper. Dressed all in black, with a low and quiet voice. But if I look closely, the depths of his sharp crimson eyes sparkled like stars. I noticed that after living with him for a little while. So I felt it was more like him to call him Yoru itself than Ski. Wait, what's can't believe it. Using the game to learn language. Well, it had its benefits then.
こいつが太陽なら、俺は月なんじゃな。
Yeah, Iski. Okay. when I explained it. The not so gentle Kaibutsu just said, Soka, and turned the page of his newspaper. The gentle Kaibutsu gave a weary smile as if to say, sorry, he's so gruff.
だけどさ、気づいたかな？もう出て行けとは言わなくなっただろ？
確かにそうかも。
何度も言うのが面倒になっただけだ。出て行ってくれるのならすぐにでも出て行ってくれて構わない。俺はな、子供が嫌いなんだよ。
Okay, Edgelord.
おいおい、子供を泣かすとは大人げないやつだな。
大人も子供もあったものか。
The unkind Kaibutsu, knocked, struck a match, and lit a new cigarette. He exhaled a puff of purple smoke. Purple smoke? That makes me think. Give me a second.
俺はこの世に生まれ落ちた時からずっとこのままの姿だ。子供にはなったこともないし、大人にだってなったことはない。
He hid his face, with the newspaper spread open. I watched the pure white cigarette smoke rise from beyond it. As promised, breakfast was my responsibility. It was always a simple menu, but I did my best with what small self could do. Every morning, without fail, the kind Kaibutsu would clap his hands and say, "Wow, that's amazing!" The unkind Kaibutsu didn't say anything, but he carefully folded the newspaper and set it down. Then the three of us would put our hands together and say "Itadakimasu." That was repeated every morning, without fail. Dole would eat the simple breakfast I made, always repeating "Sugoi, oishiso" over and over.
おいしい。味覚がほとんどないのにうまいのか。
いやー、何を言うんだ君。チワが私たちのために作ってくれた、その気持ちが嬉しい。だからきっとこれは美味しいよ。そう感じるのが心だろ。
何が心だ。また人間の真似事か。懲りないやつだ。
Okay, Edgelord. Nock scoffed and also took a bite of the food.
どうかな。
何がどうかなだ。
今朝の食事、実はね、チワが君の口に合うかどうか一生懸命考えて作ってくれたみたいだよ。
He just snorted and said nothing. Neither that it was delicious, nor it was unappetizing. But he ate it all without leaving anything. Even so, it probably doesn't mean not recognize me as Kazuku, but it felt as if he had said, "You can stay here for a while." Dakara.
ありがとうございます。
To me, who said that timidly, Nock didn't respond at all and opened the newspaper again.
まったく、ありがとう言うのは逆じゃないかな。不愛想なのにも程ってものがあるよ。チワもそう思うだろう？
Sol said that and shrugged his shoulders. I received names from the two Kaibutsus. Until I was adopted here, I was just a small child. Nobody in particular, but by receiving a name, I finally felt like I had taken shape. I had a premonition that this name would surely become one of my important things from now on. And that's why I also gave names to the two of them. Soul and Nock. A kind Kaibutsu and an unkind Kaibutsu. Even now, I'm still a little scared that if I make a mistake, Nock will glare at me. Even so, since coming here, I've rarely felt lonely. The music, movie, and story sessions after every meal soon became something the three of us, including me, could enjoy. I wonder how long it's been since I started living here. It was the season when the the sakura petals spluttered outside the window. After finishing breakfast, as I was dozing off in the warm sunlight, Soul said this to me.
チワ、今日は君に大切なお話とプレゼントがあるんだ。
お話とプレゼント？
うん。お話とプレゼント。どちらの方がまず気になる？
Of course, it was the present I was curious about, but it must have a cautious personality. I must have a cautious personality. I told him I wanted to hear the important talk first.
お勉強をしようか。
His sudden words woke me up.
お勉強って？
来週からこの町の小学校に通えるよう手続きしてきた。それが大切なお話の方だよ。
Then saying this was the present, Soul handed me a paper bag. Inside were new clothes.
これ何？
入学祝いだよ。そう。近くの小学校の制服だ。ここのはとっても可愛いんだよ。チワによく似合うと思うな。
お勉強って学校ってどうして？
うん。
That's because Soul said.
これから私たちは3人家族だ。私はそう言ったけれど、こいつとナハトとね、いろいろ話し合ったんだ。
Naha glanced at me from behind the open newspaper.
チワ、勝手なことで申し訳ないんだけれど、君と私たちが家族でいられる時間は限られているんだよ。いつかは君もここから巣立っていかなきゃならない。
巣立つ？
うん。いつかはね、私たちとさよならして、外の世界で自分の力で生きていかなきゃならない時が来るってことだよ。
This Yoru is a strange place. Because once people become adults, they can no longer freely enter and exit.
だからね、チワ。君をさらってきた手前、本当に勝手だとは思うんだけど、その時に備えて、君にはいろいろなことを学んでいてほしいんだ。君にはあくまでも人間として育っていってもらいたい。それが私とナハトが話し合った末の結論だよ。
As a Ninyan, I won't be able to live with them someday, because Ninyan are creatures who all grow up. That's something far, far in the future. But Soul said that eventually, I'll have to find someone in the outside world who would live with me. A friend would be fine, or a koibito, someone who would someday become a honto no kazoku.
ま、それこそ本当にまだまだ先の話だけれどね。勝手なことばかり言ってごめんね。
When I'm apologized to like that, I start to feel sad. But even so, I can't help but think, if we're going to say sayonara anyway, then why did you go out of your way to kidnap me? Weren't you supposed to take the kids you kidnapped, make them your comrades, and live happily ever after in the Yoru forever and ever? I guess the rumors were just rumors after all. I wanted to say that, but the small me, unable to skillfully put those feelings into words, could only nod at Soul's words. Gakko? Yeah. I'm sure I won't be able to make friends with anyone. That's why I want to stay here like this, forever. But... Nare? Then I noticed. There was still something inside the bag.
ぬいぐるみ？
It was a small size naigurumi, small enough for even little me to hug fully.
それも贈り物だよ。入学祝いだ。君が一人で眠るのが寂しい時、その子が一緒にいてくれたらなーって思ってね。でも、
I picked it up and stared at it intently. Was it from an anime or manga? It was a character I'd never seen before. When I was in the mansion, I didn't see anything other than picture books, so I don't even know if it's famous or not, but
あは
Soul was giving a weary smile.
改めて見るとかなり可愛くないよねそれ。なんて言っていいのか、一体何のぬいぐるみなのかも全く不明だし。
ふん。だから言っただろう。
Alright, Edgelord. Naha said, still holding his newspaper open.
そんな不細工な人形なんて女の子が喜ぶはずが。
かわいい。
え？
これ子犬さんだよね。
うん。大正解みたいだね。一緒に入ってた説明書にそう書いてあったよ。
ありがとう。
I hugged the koi Muruni tightly. It was so fluffy, fluff, so soft.
プレゼントしておいてこういうのもなんだけれど、可愛い子は可愛いと感じるもののセンスが微妙だったりするのかな。
何それ、ひどい。
I pouted and shook my head, saying, That's not true. This one is cute. So kawaii.
こんなかわいいプレゼント初めてもらったよ。ありがとう。嬉しい。すごく。
The outside world is scary. Though, but maybe I'll be okay if I have this one with me. Because there's no doubt that this kawaii chisai one was bought for me with me in mind.
お祝いありがとう。私ね、学校行ってみるよ。
Naha opened his newspaper wide again, and just like always, he snorted, Yuki. Life presents countless situations that test your Yuki. Jingui, what's that? I forgot the word. Anyway, on sleepless nights, who held my hand, used to say that. I don't know how much of my younger self truly understood the meaning of that, though. So, Yuki, going to school required a great deal of Yuki. I know what Gakko is. It's a place that was depicted several times in the world of picture books. A place where many kodomo gathered to study, to benkyo. I also knew there was no guarantee that all the kodomo gathered there would be kind. Yasashi. Anyway, I was anxious. There might be mean bullies, just like those in the picture books. There might be teachers who are nothing but strict, just like in those picture books. It might be a gakko with strange rules, just like in those stories or picture books. Watashi, who lived in the mansion for so long, I barely knew anything about the outside world. My fear only grew and grew. Even so, I faced that day.
じゃあ行ってきます。
First day of school. Putting on Soul's new uniform and backpack, courage welled up. Look at the stuffed animal was inside. With this one by my side, I felt like I could go anywhere. Truthfully, I still didn't want to go to school, but I also thought I might be able to prove something with this. Being bullied by mean kids, being scolded every day by scary teachers, feeling daunted by strange rules. If I realized I was unsuited for life out there, maybe they'll make me one of their own. They might even let me live alongside them, in their world. I've been hoping for something like that, somewhere deep down, but...
大丈夫。そんなに気負ったり不安に思わなくても平気だよ。
I doubt he guessed what I was thinking, but Soul spoke to me as I looked down, tense.
ずっと君のことを見ているからね。
本当？
ああ、本当だとも。
姿は見えなくても、
ん？
声は届かなくても、
I looked up at Soul and said,
いつもそばにいてくれる？
then I reached out my hand to Soul.
私と手を握っていてくれる？
ああ、もちろん。君のことずっとそばで見てるよ。君の手をいつでもギュッとしているよ。
Soul said that with a smile, taking my outstretched hand.
君が何かピンチになったら助けに飛んでいく。いつだって、どんな時にだって。だから、いいかい？
I want you to feel secure and challenge yourself with all sorts of things. Soul gazed at me with a smile.
君はこの瞬間も一秒一秒大きくなってる。そんな君の成長を一番近くで見守っていられることで、私たちも君たちの心をいつか知ることができるかもしれない。
Soul said he was dreaming of a future like that.
チワ、君は自分の未来をどんな風に夢見ているのかな？君が思い描く素敵な未来がいつか叶えられますようにと祈ってる。そのために今はたくさんの経験を重ねてほしいよ。
We swung our joined hands as if making a pinky promise, then let go. I wanted to fail at something, to show them that I wasn't suited for the outside world. And then I thought, they'd make me one of their own. If I was told like that, I couldn't help it. I just had to try my best. I guess I was happy to be expected of back then. Being expected of felt like being told it was okay for me to be here. But even so, I still ended up alone in school. And I was bullied because I was small. But I wasn't lonely. On Parent Teacher Day, Soul came, all dressed up. During class, at the back of the classroom, among the other kids' moms, a kaibutsu of the Yoda was mixed in. It felt strange and amusing somehow. When I looked back, Soul was smiling brightly and waving at me. Then for some reason the classroom grew noisy, and I felt a little proud. When my turn came in the relay, Soul waved a big flag and cheered for me. It was really embarrassing, but also very, very urashi. Totemo. Everything was so I could get used to the outside world. Everything was so that I could one day lead the nest. From the two of them, we became a kazaku. We made a surname Ando as our shared name. A story I'd randomly picked from the bookshelf before I started school. The three of us had talked about borrowing it from one of its characters. When he went outside of the Yoru, Saul called himself Ando Kazuma. Naha said he didn't need one, since he never went outside and just kept puffing out clouds of cigarette smoke. Saul often left the Yoru, not just for school events, doing all sorts of things to help me live a normal life. On holidays, I'll go out hand in hand with Soul. We'd have a picnic at the neighborhood koen with our bento box. We'd spread a sheet on the grass and open the bento Naha. Naha made it for us. Naha's the one who's... Soul seemed to dislike sunlight, so he always wore a pitch black suit and carried a pitch black parasol. He's literally a person of the Yoru, so of course he doesn't like he doesn't like Tayo. And on both hands, pure white gloves. Not just Soul, but Naha also wore this gloves. I wonder if there's some meaning to it. It had always bothered me, but that day I had something even more pressing on my mind.
そっか。またいじめられるようになっちゃったのか。
The reason Soul took me out that day was because I haven't been feeling well since morning.
なあ、チワ。
なに？
君に意地悪をするいじめっ子は男の子だろ？女の子たちじゃなくって。
そうだけど、
How do you know? I asked. Soul smiled brightly and said, I know. It's easy.
男の子はね、いくつになってもどうしようもない生き物なのさ。大人だろうと子供だろうとね。
Fucking over, guys.
どういうことなの？よくわからない。
男の子っていうのは好きな子に意地悪したくなるものなのさ。そうすることで好きな子に自分のことを気にしてもらおうとするんだよ。チワ、気づいてる？
Oh man. She was gaslit by Soul to think about like Taiga being randomly as mean to her as like liking her. Okay. Jesus, man. Well, I heard of that. Heard of that saying, but you know, it seems like Chiwa took it seriously.
何を？
うん。最近チワはずっと可愛くなったんだよ。私たちと一緒に暮らし始めた頃も当然可愛かったけど、今はもっともっと可愛くなってる。だからさ、チワ、君にとっては残念なお知らせかもだけど、君はこれからとっても大変かもしれないな。もっともっと君に意地悪してくる男の子が増えちゃうんじゃないかな。
Imagining such a mirai, I felt incredibly sad. I felt like I was about to cry. I couldn't understand being mean to someone you like. To me, like that, Soul beckoned, saying, Come here. I fidgeted and nestled into Soul's chest. I was on his lap, held close, pressing my ear to his chest, where no heartbeat sounded. I felt so safe. Soul, who was supposed to dislike outside light, smelled of abundant sun, Tayo, and grass within his embrace.
もしもいつか君に大切な人ができてしまって。
大切な？
うん。その誰かがね、もしチワに意地悪ばっかりするような男の子だったら、不安だな。私はその子にチワの代わりにいっぱい意地悪仕返してしまいそうだよ。
Anyway, Chiwa really got gaslit by the whole thing that Soul is saying right now.
君と一緒に生きてくれる誰かを外の世界で探すのも、君が学校に通ったりすることを勧める理由ではあるけれど。
It was difficult. Soul groaned, nodding, as he stroked my head, thinking this was a very different problem.
でも
Difficult problem.
ごめんね、チワ。そのいじめっ子に私たちは仕返ししないよ。厳しいようだけど、君の困難はできるだけ君自身の力で乗り越えてほしい。そのための力を困難の中で学んでほしいんだよ。
Soul said to me, nestled in his embrace, almost singing.
私たちはいつもチワのことを見守っていたいと願ってるけど、だけどずっと手助けをしてあげられるわけでもないからね。
We wished to
君に
quietly.
は強くて優しい子に育ってほしいんだ。
Man, they really take their time to pause, you know? You know what I mean? Anyway, we wish to quietly watch over your growth as much as possible, Soul said.
でもどうしても辛くて耐えられなくなったら呼んでほしいかな。君が私にくれた名前だよ。夜の星を見上げて私を呼んでくれたなら、いつだってどこにだって駆けつけるよ。
The wind blew. Fluffy sakura petals drifted by. Soul's voice, like a lullaby, filled me with so much peace.
チワ、起きてる？
うん。
I had dozed off. Whatever, Chiwa. But
起きてるよ。
I lifted my face and looked at Soul.
そろそろちょうどいい時間だ。帰ろうか。
そろそろ？
ナハトが待ってる。
そうなの？
実はね、チワ、 今日君をこうして連れ出したのはチワが元気なさそうだったからってだけじゃないんだよ。
To my puzzled face, Saul gave a beaming smile and said this.
お誕生日おめでとうチワ。ナハトがおいしいおいしいケーキを焼いて待ってくれてるよ。
Returning home, I opened the front door. The air was filled with a sweet aroma. On one of the school shop's tables, a beautifully decorated shortcake sat. Oh man, now I want to look for some strawberry shortcake, like literally now. Like I want to go out. It's 9 p.m. There might be a place that's still open serving. No, wait, I shouldn't. I should stop. I should stop. I should stop. It's a weekday. I should stop. Anyway. I'm so tempted to pause and just to go out. No, I should. Something was written on the chocolate letter in chocolate letters.
ハッピーバースデーチワだね。そう書いてあるんだよ。
Soul handed me a few unlit candles.
今日で1年だ。
1年って？
チワをここにさらってきてちょうど1年だよ。
Soul gave a mischievous smile.
だから今日がチワのお誕生日だと勝手に決めたよ。一番大切な記念日だ。3人でお祝いする日はこれからもっといっぱい増やしていければいいなって思うよ。
Soul cut the cake. He gave me the slice with the biggest strawberry. Both the cake and the strawberry seemed to sparkle. I remember my heart pounding for some reason.
このケーキナハトが作ってくれたの？
Naha sat in his usual seat, reading the newspaper as always. But today the cigarette in his mouth was unlit. I took a bite of the cake.
うまいか。
I like how he had to ask that question. There was something about that.
おいしい。
そうか。
ありがとう。
Dot dot dot.
本当においしいよ。とってもね、甘いの。
Without saying anything, Naha hid his face behind the open newspaper. He got soon.
私がチワを連れ出している間に用意しておいてもらったんだよ。だけどさ、この頃こいつ料理の腕前が妙に上がったと思わないかな。
Kinda makes you think.
そうかも。今日のお弁当も美味しかった。残さず全部食べたよ。ごちそうさまでした。あのね、小さなハンバーグがね、とっても美味しかったの。
しかしなあ、こちらからお願いしておいてなんだけど、いつの間にこんな可愛い感じの焼き菓子まで作れるようになったんだ君は。
I see. So even we can cook well. This is a discovery. Wait, is this from their perspective? Wait, what? Muttering to himself, Saul took a bite of the cakey, and with a weary smile, he lamented that they still couldn't taste anything. Zanin.
ああ、一つ夢ができたよ。
Saul showed a bright, blooming smile.
夢？どんなの？
いつか3人で本当にここでお店をしながら生きていくのも悪くはないなって。
Saul offered a weary smile.
まあ、本当に夢のまた夢って感じたけれどね。だけどもしも叶えば それはとても素敵なことだなって思うんだ。
Nahato looked away from the newspaper, staring at the ceiling. His expression made it seem like he was thinking about Soul's dream, Yume. So I too imagined such a mirai. Soul as a waiter, delivering Naha's delicious kekis and kohi to customers with his usual wonderful smile. And I'd be with them, loudly relaying customers' orders to Naha in the kitchen. If only those days would continue on and on. If only such a day would come. Someday, Itsuka. Together, the three of us envisioned a dreamlike future. That season, when the fully bloomed sakura began to fall, my very first Tanjobi passes with my precious Kaibutsu. I receive another present, Atarashi clothes, and a bear plushie.
ごめんね。また可愛くないぬいぐるみで。
I thought that ever since I was snatched away and brought here, every day has been as sweet as keiki. I wish I could give something back to them. What could I do to make them happy? Even though I've been thinking only of that.
ごめんな、チワ。
Yet, Soul said to me, with a slightly sad expression,
どうして？ぬいぐるみは可愛いよ。
うん、違うよ。君はさ、チワ。他の子たちよりずっと賢い子だけれど、やっぱり君くらいの子はさ、お母さんとかお父さんだとかに思い切り甘えていたいものだよね。
Soul said that, even though it was a Tanjobi we created for her, a special day like this would make her feel that way especially.
それなのに、君にはとても寂しい思いをさせてしまっているんじゃないかって、そう思うと。
I sometimes wonder if it was really a good thing that it snatched her away and brought her here. Unusually, Soul's smile was clouded.
ここにこうしてさらわれてこなければ、君には今頃全然寂しい思いをする必要のない全く別の今があったかもしれない。
That's not true. I'm not lonely at all. Because there are two people here who even celebrate my Tanjobi for me. What words would best convey these feelings? Kangaeru. So, I'd always wanted to tell the two of them something.
ありがとう。
I stand up from the chair I was sitting in. Then I look at the two of them and turn and say it. It was embarrassing, but I forced myself to say it.
いつもありがとう。パパ。
Soul's eyes widened. Naha dropped his newspaper with a rustle.
心配してくれてありがとう。でもね、寂しくないよ。本当だよ。
I smiled at the two of them.
だって私にはパパが2人もいるんだもん。全然寂しくなんてないんだよ。
Suddenly, I realized. I felt as if the air had stopped for a moment. The two of them were staring at me. What should I do? Did I say something strange? Did I trouble them? I felt a little flustered, but
ふう。ほー
So Soul sprang to his feet.
もう一回今のもう一回言ってみてよチワ。
ポ
おお。
Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. God damn it, I ended up buying strawberry shortcake. No, actually, the reason why I went out was totally unrelated to the strawberry shortcake. I was now reminded how Kiss X's or Kiss Sis or whatever the fuck how do you pronounce it. I just remembered how etchy it could get. Those were amazing times. Anyway, Soul swayed, clutching his head.
まずい。これまずいよ。鼻血が出そう。
何をデレデレしているんだ、気色の悪い。
Naha picked up his newspaper again and cleared his throat.
まったく。それくらいのことで動転するとはな。見苦しいにも程というものがある。
What an edgelord.
おい。
なんだ。
新聞が逆さまだぞ。
気のせいだ。
Just your imagination.
いや気のせいって。なあ、今日は千葉のお誕生日だ。そう決めたろ？特別な日なんだ。少しくらい素直になれよ。君だって十分動転しちゃってるんじゃないのか？
He's the son of the Narrated. Soul's the Narrated, obviously.
ありえん。
嬉しいなら素直に喜べばいいだろうってだけの話なのにな。そうすれば千葉だって嬉しいはずだ。
別に。
Betsuni? Naha snorted and said,
お前たちはものを知らなさすぎる。どころか文字を読む方法も知らないのか。人間とはありとあらゆるものが逆転しているのが俺たちなんだ。時に文字を逆から読むことだってある。
Man, that cope.
だから別にこれはごく普通のことでおかしなことは何も。
Naha said that quickly while reading a newspaper upside down.
千葉、こいつの癖を一つ教えようか。
どんなの？
ああ、隠し事があったりするとね、こいつ饒舌になるんだよ。普段はあんななのにとってもね。
Soul was looking at Naha with a mischievous smile, wondering what kind of feeling he was hiding. It was the night I had my birthday celebrated by my otosans. Otosan-tachi? Anyway, somehow I couldn't sleep.
眠れない夜は温かなミルクを飲んでみる。体が温まると心も緩むよ。
I wish things were that easy. Maybe I drank too much of the warm milk Soul made for me. When I got out of bed to go to the bathroom and went downstairs, I noticed that the light was on in their room.
まだ起きてるの？
I opened the door a crack and called out. Then Soul was sitting alone in the chair in the room. He turned to me with his usual smile.
起きてるよ。私たちは特に毎晩欠かさず眠る必要もないからね。
そうだった。
I nodded back with a smile, a Soul's smile.
眠れないのかな？
ちょっとだけ。
Because today was such a fun day. So maybe I felt like it was a waste to sleep. When I lay down on the bed in my room, a somewhat lonely feeling swelled up. Also, there was something that was bothering me a little.
おいで。
Soul beckoned me over. I happily ran over. I sat on Soul's lap. You hugged me tightly from behind like always. And I was really happy, but...
大丈夫？ 今
I looked up at Soul's face from the lap I was held in.
日、時々、寂しそうな顔してたように見えたから。
例えば, when you were hugging me like this in the koen. 例えば, when you said something like, was it right to have taken me?
なんだかいつもより寂しそうだった。
いつもより？
そう。いつもよりだよ。
Soul looked surprised, but
ソルも、ナハトも、時々、とっても寂しそうに見えるよ。
to me who could see you like that. Chiwa, you smiled and said, "You're an amazing kid." In that small smile, it seemed to me that a slightly larger, sad feeling than usual was hidden. It had always been that way. Soul always smiles for me, smiling brightly, and gives me a lot of reassurance, even though I have been taken to an unfamiliar place. Within that smile, it always seemed that a small, sad feeling was hidden.
私、二人の役に立てる？
One night, a sleepless night, I had Soul listen to my sad feelings, so
いつも、私、二人にいろいろしてもらうばっかりで。だからね、お願い、何かお返ししたいなって思って。
そっか。チワにはバレバレだったのか。
Soul stroked my head, while saying, "You really are an amazing kid. A kind kid."
今日もとっても楽しかったから。昔のことをいつもより少し強く思い出してしまったみたいなんだ。
今日も？
そうだよ。君をさらってきてからはずっと楽しい日ばかりだからね。そして今日はもっともっと楽しかったから。
Soul closed his mouth here. What he was staring at was the painting of the canvas placed before him. The smile of the unknown Kodomo was flipping through there.
私のお話聞いてくれるかな？
Alright, we're gonna have a flashback within a flashback. I nodded, saying, "Of course."
今度は私がお話聞く番だから。
I held Soul's hand, just like that one night when Soul held my hand when I couldn't sleep, and just like he listened to my sad feelings. Soul smiled, saying, "Arigato." And first he told me this one thing.
私はね、もともとはごく普通の人間だったんだよ。
Soul began his story, little by little. It was a story from long, long ago. Soul, who was once human like me, had a proper name and a kazoku.
この町で生まれて、この町で育った。大好きな人と出会い、結婚をして、子供も一人授かったんだ。
I think he was happy. Soul said this in a thin, quiet voice. Oh, I think she was happy. Oh, no, I think.
だけど、私たちの子が6つになった日のことだ。
It was an accident, Chikko.
お誕生日を3人で祝ったんだ。今日みたいに美味しいケーキを3人で一緒に食べたんだよ。
Life for the adorable child. He wanted them happy. Not everything would go smoothly. Many challenges. Even so, he wanted them to live without giving up on happiness.
そんな風に祈ることが何よりも幸せだったんだ。
But that happiness was snatched away in an instant by a small carelessness. It was a fire caused by negligence. The flame of a candle that should have been blown out. That flame, which should have been properly extinguished, grew larger inside the trash can. When he realized, Soul was in a hospital bed. There he was informed that only he had survived. He was covered in bandages. His whole body ached. He had suffered severe burns. The doctors all said it was a miracle he was even alive. But that was truly a miracle? Was that truly a miracle? What good fortune was there in being only one left behind? Soul cried and cried.
ふと 思い出したんだ。学校の生徒たちが話していたことを。
There were many strange rumors in this town. One of them was the Sakura. A huge sakura that stood as if leaning against the academy's clock tower. The lives of those who died in this town are buried at its roots. The sakura blooms by absorbing the lives of the dead. On a full moon night, dig up the roots of the sakura with your bare hands, all while continuously whispering the name of your loved one. Then the person who should have died will appear in the hole you dug. Hug that person, call their name, and once they wake up, you can hold hands and go home together. However, it only works if the person you wish to bring back has died within the last week.
最初その話を聞いた時は、子供たちは面白いことを信じるんだなって思うばかりで、もちろん信じてはいなかった。そういう話を大人は信じちゃダメなんだって、どこかでそう思っていたんだろうけれど、病院でたった一人目覚めた私は、信じなければと思った。
He thought that if he didn't, his heart would die. His heart was pitch black. He felt like he would forget to breathe if he wasn't conscious of it. Even if it was something impossible, like an illusion, without just one kibo. It felt like everything was about to disappear. I snuck out of the byoin in the middle of the yoru. I woke up from my sleep 5 days after the accident. According to the rumors, it was only efficient for 1 week. Effective. To escape the byoin, I had to avoid the sensei's eyes, and I wasted a day in bed. The only time I had left was the yoru I snuck out of the byoin. Dragging my body raw from burns, I ran through the night city. Looking up, I saw the sakura. The sakura nestled between the academy's clock tower, stretched its branches so wide it seemed to cover the entire town. The blossoms fully blossom in every branch, seemed to shimmer dazzlingly, petal by petal under the full moon's light. I dug up the roots of the sakura. A precious person, a beloved person, someone I had said sayonara to, someone I wanted to get back. I called out the name again and again. My nails tore raw, blood gushed, flesh ripped, and by the time bone was exposed at my fingertips, tears overflowed. I knew it. That doing something like this was pointless. I wasn't a child enough to truly believe in something like this. Yume and Kibo. I had left them behind in some distant past. It's what it meant to become an adult. Doshite did things turn out like this. I was so happy though. I didn't wish for anything any more than that. It hurts. My whole body creaked. Everything hurts. I heard my heart crack. How much easier it would be if I could just die, here and now. That's when I thought about it.
命を差し出せ。
I heard a voice. I turned around. And there stood something pitch black, almost like the yoru itself. A something. Sharp crimson eyes looked down at me, huddled at the base of the sakura.
お前の命と、お前の大切な誰かの終わってしまった命と、今、ここで、この桜の木の下で、交換するんだ。この世界のすべては時間が支配している。命もそうだ。あらかじめ与えられた時間を一秒一秒、命の使い道だよ。与えられた時間、その使い道にこそ命の価値はあるものだ。
So, if I could offer my remaining lifespan to the giant sakura, the source of the yoru, then I could bring someone important back to life.
差し出した残りの時間だけ蘇ったその人はお前の代わりに生きていくことができる。
How absurd. Another wasa then.
バカを言うな。そんなことできるわけ。
できる。
The Yoru stated it clear and equivocally.
いいか、人間。目に見えるものだけが真実だと疑わないのは、お前たちの欠点の一つだ。
Even air is invisible, but it's here. It's naive and embarrassing, but your feelings for someone important, though unseen, are certainly there, aren't they? With a sigh, someone said that, pointing beside Sol.
まだ、お前の家族は夜の中にいる。感じないのか。二人はお前のそばにいる。ずっとお前のことを見つめているぞ。
My tears wouldn't stop. By my side. All this time, they saw me like this. All this time?
さあ、どうするんだ。お前の時間をすべて差し出せば、大切な人をどちらか一人、蘇らせられる。焼け落ちた体も元通りにできるだろう。
But in return,
お前はもう二度と、そのものに会うことはできなくなるぞ。それだけは理解しておくことだ。
なぜ？
why wouldn't I be able to meet them?
命を差し出せば、お前の時間は停止する。そして、不死となる。夜の一部になるんだよ。わかるだろう。太陽と月は相入れないもの。俺たちはそういう生き物なのだと理解しろ。
I had no hesitation. It wasn't my carelessness. All the responsibility lies with me. My Chiwa was snatched away from under my feet. I stole my precious child's life. I, who was supposed to be praying for their happiness. Gomen. I call my wife's name over and over. Honestly, I want to revive you too, but it seems only one of us is possible. I'm sure you would nod beside me, believing that.
その時点で私の寿命がどれだけ残っていたかわからないけれど、私は残されたすべての寿命を差し出すとうなずいたんだ。
And the soul became one of the Kaibutsu no Yoru.
どうやって命と命を交換したの？
A child's heart is a bundle of curiosity. I realized the possibility that I might hurt Soul by asking such a thing only after the words had already left my mouth. But Soul smiled and told me many things.
少し眠れと言われたよ。
眠る？
私が必死になって桜の根元を掘り起こしていた穴だよ。そこに入って眠れと言われたんだ。次に目覚めた時、私は命をなくしてる。そしてそこはもう夜の中だって。
As I lay down in the hole, the guy covered me with dirt.
私の中から何かが抜け落ちていくような感覚があり、眠った。深く深く私は眠ったんだ。
And when I woke up next, I was certainly in a Yoru I'd never seen before. I ended up living with the man who turned me into a Kaibutsu. An old cafe was his stronghold. When I asked why he lived there, he vaguely said, "Night monsters love kohi," and I laughed. It was probably just a shuni. The stronghold was overflowing with music and stories. I suppose that was also just another one of his shumi.
怪物は人の心を持たない生き物だ。だからゼロから何かを生み出すことができない。お前も怪物になったのだから俺と同じだ。心を持たない。だから涙ももう流せない。だがそれでは役割を果たせばしないから、常にこうして人の心が生み出したものに触れている。お前もそうしろ。
Oh, so that's why they really like to read, watch, and listen to music and all that sort of thing. Asahi-san was also doing that. He always sat in the same spot, listening to music while reading newspapers and books. When I placed my hand on my chest, there was no heartbeat. My body, which had been covered in burns, was now completely unblemished. This is a Yume, I thought. I decided to think that way again. From now on, I would live within this Yume.
役割とは。
ああ、いいか。夜の中に生まれる者たちには全て役割がある。ここに不要な者など一人もいないんだ。
The role given to the Yoru no Kaibutsu was to abduct girls. So, they became, fucking sexual predators. Jesus, man. Anyway. They abduct girls suffering in the time Taiyo no Jigan, extracted their lives, and accepted them as Yoru no members. And the extracted lives were offered to that Sakura, drawing sustenance from the girls' lives. The giant Sakura remained in full bloom forever. Always the Sakura bloom in falling snow. That sight was exceptionally beautiful even in Yoru.
あの桜が完全に枯れてしまうと、夜もまた消滅すると言われてる。この時間を、夜を維持することが俺たちの役割なんだ。
夜の中には私たち以外にどんな生き物が住んでいるんだ。
He said there were many kinds. Many different creatures live, and each with their own rule.
夜の中には私たち以外にどんな生き物が住んでいるんだ。
Ikimono. I keep forgetting the word for creatures. Ikimono. Among them, he said Neko, or the polar opposite of them.
あいつらは少年少女らの悪夢だけを心から抜き出し、どこか遠いところへ送るようだが、そんなことをしても子供らの現実は何も変わらない。夜だって維持できない。心を傷つける原因をなくさなければ、また同じように子供らは傷つく。あいつらのやっていることは、所詮その場しのぎでしかないんだよ。
The girls we, Yoru no Kaibutsu, abducted had something in common. They were girls feeling lonely. Yeah, that's why Hiyori Soka-san had the worst time of her life until she was switched with her Futago. But then her Futago Imoto was like, yeah. And for some reason, the Sakura chose only children who were starved for love. A night of the full moon. Looking at the blooming Sakura, the image of a crying girl in town descends into my mind, carried by the petals.
それは私たち怪物だけに。
そうだ。俺たち夜の怪物の頭の中にだけだ。
That's why I believe it's our role. He said that and chose the next record. I took a sip of the coffee he brewed. The complete lack of taste was one proof that I was no longer human. I felt a little lonely, and I wondered what our Kodomo was doing now, how they were using the remaining time I gave them. I repeatedly thought of the precious person I was forbidden to see again within the Yoru. The next music began to play.
ところで、
なんだ。
いつも思ってたんだが、君の選曲のセンスはあんまりにひどいと思うんだが、そこのところを話し合おうか。
Proceed to trash his face.
いいだろう。私たちの命にはあまりあるほど時間がある。なんと言っても不死だからな。いくらでも話そうじゃないか。
After many discussions, we laughed a little, seeing how utterly opposite we were. We spent a very, very long time together. Totally good friends, by the way. I'm sure that, despite how he seems, he's probably lonelier than anyone. Holding on to these lonely feelings, he had been all alone, unletting girls who harbored the same lonely feelings as himself. It sounded so, Whenever he abducted a girl, he would always say this to me.
子供たちの相手はお前がしてくれ。お前のことを仲間にした理由をあえて作るのなら、それだ。俺は顔が怖いからな。 目つきも悪い。子供らを相手にするのは随分と面倒なことが多い。いちいち泣かれるのは面倒だ。苦手なんだよ、そういうのは。
Of course, the edgelord would think of that. How many girls did we abduct and make Yoro residents? We tried to live with them in the Yoro no Kuni, where loneliness shouldn't exist. But everyone we adopted couldn't forget their lonely feelings. The girls left us. We watched them depart to some distant place, transforming their very existence into a ticket. Ticketto. Chiquetto. We only repeated countless goodbyes. Sayonara. Before long, we decided not to abduct anyone anymore, because we realized that what we were doing was as meaningless as what the Neko were doing. We won't abduct anyone anymore. On the last day we decided that, I looked up at the sky once more on the full moon Yoru. The night of the falling Sakura. I want my cousin Otosan to love me. I want to be held.
そんな君の声が聞こえたから、最後の最後にもう一度だけ寂しい気持ちをさらおうと私が勝手に決めたんだ。
So says he doesn't regret it, even though he got mad at her a lot.
最初は反対していたあいつも
At him a lot.
私がしつこく説得したからね。次第次第にあいつから反対する言葉も少なくなった。君のことを最後の女の子として受け入れてくれたんだと思う。
But they won't meet me there Fushimi. They sought to end my loneliness differently than the past children. I understood this is why they're with me. I'll eventually lead the nest. For that purpose, I'm being raised by them as a union.
そういったこれまでのいろいろを、チワ。君にパパって呼んでもらえて思い出しちゃったんだ。あの子は、私の子は、今どうしてるのかなって。
I wonder if it's going to be plot relevant. It might be actually, you know what? Considering what we already saw in Hiyori's route, it might be someone we already know. I understood why Soul looked so lonely. The painting on the canvas I was staring at depicted the Oyako. And at the same time, I also understood why. And that person looked so lonely. I, Hanade Taiga, opened my eyelids. My mind returns to the present for a moment. Chiwa is in front of me. She was holding my hand, her eyelids tightly closed. I felt it was beyond this point. That's precisely beyond this point that Chiwa's Akumu lies hidden. If I close my eyes deeply once more, Chiwa's past will advance even further. This hand, through the Yoru, would tell me the Maho Shoujo's sky, Chiwa's Akumu's true nature, and her Nagai. But I felt a slight hesitation. To dream of Chiwa's time, Chigan, like it means that I've been truly accepted by Chiwa. Such a relationship is beginning to blossom between us. That's precisely why. Is it really okay for me to see what lies beyond this point? What exactly did young Chiwa realize? What actions did she take? And what Maho did she need? Once I know, there will be no turning back. I have a strong premonition for that. I absolutely won't be able to say, I can't help you. If it were my original self, I would probably think it's a problem that should be thoroughly considered, worried over, and answered with time, but... Yuki, I murmur. I already decided not to hesitate and worry, didn't I? I murmured in my heart. To face Chiwa's Kokoro. I closed my eyelids once again. a second. Okay, I am back. This town is home to many people involved in literature, painting, and music. That's because the city has a system in place to welcome these so called artists, specifically for creators engaged in professional activities. 例えば, they rent out old and ownerless houses for almost no rent and reduce tax collection rates, and so on. Perhaps the citywide efforts bore fruit as gradually well known artists began to emerge and their works adorned the town brilliantly. Tourists from both within and outside the country also began to gather and drawn by these works. Among these now well known creators, I realized that name was there. The person's soul wished to prolong the life law, even exchanging her own soul's life, his own soul's kodomo. The name that came up in Soul's story was the same as the name of a certain female artist living in town. She was famous enough that even a child like me connected to this town would know her name. That's why I recognized her. But Soul was different. He lived almost entirely unconnected to the outside world. He only left Yoru for events like my parent-teacher day or sports festival. So I figured he didn't know. Or perhaps he was deliberately trying not to know. Myself now, 10 years later, can understand that. Because if he knew about her musume, he would surely want to meet her. Myself now would realize that Soul had cut ties with the outside world to avoid that. But for myself back then, it was an impossible thought. I told Soul this, that there wasn't much time left. But if we hurried, we could surely make it in time. That person has already grown quite old. She was hospitalized in the town's byoin, battling a very serious illness. Local news from various town media outlets reported this. Her works were scattered throughout the town. 例えば, the abandoned trams, various joyful paintings drawn on the densha left on those lines. That was one of her representative works. Okay, they really did talk about that a lot. The abandoned trams, and there were artists that did something to it. It's amazing that it's being called back. Other artists imitated her, and the number of colorfully decorated densha grew. Her works have become counted as one of the town's tourist attractions. To the people of this town, that artist, Soul's kodomo, was like a beloved neighbor to everyone. Everyone in the town was deep in sorrow, fearing that her end was near. But Soul didn't respond. He just sat in his chair, silently staring at the painting in front of him. On his profile, his usual bright smile, his warm sun-like smile, was nowhere to be found.
大丈夫?
Worried, I asked Soul that.
大丈夫。平気だよ。
Soul suddenly smiled as if remembering something, but to me, that smile seemed to be tinged with an even deeper sadness than usual. What should I do? Did I do something wrong?
ありがとう、チワ。あの子のことを教えてくれて。少しだけいろいろと考えたいんだけど、ごめんね。一人にさせてもらってもいいかな。
I was worried though. I felt uneasy somehow, but I left the room, leaving Soul behind. But still, my unease and worry just wouldn't disappear. I secretly gazed at Soul's back to the slightly ajar door. For a while, Soul just kept staring silently in the painting in front of him, but
あの子は幸せだっただろうか。
Soul, all alone, muttered to himself.
やっぱり寂しい思いばかりをさせただろうか。どちらか一人しか命を交換できなかった。そういう決まりだった。だからあの時はあの子を、娘を蘇らせる選択以外には何も考えられなかったけれど、でもそれはあの子はずっと一人ぼっちで生きていかなきゃならなくなるってことだ。
Who once left this world with her Okasan. On top of being revived for her Otosan's selfishness, she was forced into a long, long life, all alone. Was she truly happy to be revived?
きっとたくさん辛いことや寂しいことがあったはずなんだ。
Even problems that, would normally think about, worry about, and solve together. She must have had many things she had to think about, worry about, and solve all by herself. That is one of the loneliest things for a parent to experience. Truly.
親らしいことは何もできなかった。ふといきなり一人ぼっちにさせられて、あの子は私を恨んでいるかもしれない。はあ、今さら父親と会いたいなんて、あの子に思ってもらえると都合のいいことは考えない。そんなのはずうずうしい話だって分かってる。でも、はあ、だけど最後くらいあの子の手を引いてやれないのなら、私は一体どうして。
Soul was staring intently at his palms. Silence descended. The fluorescent light in the hallway buzzed faintly.
そうか。
Soul muttered then nodded.
これが私の命の使い道。そういうのもまた悪くはないよな。
Soul slowly rose from his chair, calmly prepared to go out, and headed alone to the viewing on the outskirts of town. I kept looking at the clock in the room. A long time had passed since Soul left. I was glad, thinking that I had finally been able to repay Soul, who had always been kind to me. And yet, I should have been happy. But still, what is this feeling? My chest felt restless. When I told Soul about the person who might be his kodomo, he looked sad before he smiled.
喜んでくれるって思ってた。空は病院に飛んでいくんじゃないかって思ってた。でも、
I couldn't help but feel like I had made a mistake after all. No good. I can't sleep. I should go pick up Soul now. Pick up what? I should go pick Soul up. I wanted to feel at ease quickly. I left the house without telling Nahato. It was in the Yoru. It was a promise not to walk around the Yoru alone, but in the sparkling Yoru again, tonight I ran. I found the bag I was searching for right there. The main street of the Yoru. So I stood frozen alone in the middle of the road, gazing at the Sakura Yoru. In that sparkling Yoru, where Sakura fell, so your figure seemed to become transparent.
ソ
I cried out without thinking, but I immediately covered my mouth with both hands, because I suddenly thought, without reason or cause, that if I raised my voice, Soul's figure would instantly vanish.
チワ
Soul turned to look at me. Because his usual smile was there, I felt a warmth slowly spread behind my eyes.
チワどうして
Am I crying? Soul's voice was lost in the murmur of the Yoru.
ううん、なんでもないよ。ただ安心しただけだから。
そっか
Man, I just realized Soul really dresses sharp.
ソル？
おいで
Beckon, I timidly walked to Soul's side. Soul held out his hand to me. I gently took his hand.
迎えに来てくれたのかな
I nodded.
そっかありがとうでもダメじゃないかチワ
うん。
夜の中に一人で出るのは危ないよナハトに怒られちゃうかもしれないぞ
ごめんなさい。
ねえチワ
何？
あいつのことナハトのことをどう思ってる
どうって？
怖いとか苦手とか嫌いだとか
好きだよ。
I was a little surprised by the sudden question, but I could honestly say that. He's a Kaibutsu who isn't as kind as Soul. He doesn't always smile at me like Soul does. He doesn't hold my hand or hug me tightly like Soul does, but
ナハトもソルみたいに私のこと大切にしてくれてるパパなんだって私思ってる。
that's why I like him. I said I love both of them. Demo.
子供が苦手だってナハトは言ってたよね。だからナハトは私のことあまり得意じゃないのかもしれない。
That's why I said I want to become an adult quickly.
大人になればナハトも私のこと今よりは苦手に思ったりしなくなるんじゃないかなって思って。ナハトの目はねキラキラしてるよ。
I suddenly looked up at the Sakura Yozora, Hanahoshi, and I pointed at its light.
ナハトの真っ赤な瞳はねほらお星様がいっぱいのあの空みたい。
As I secretly gazed at Naha's eyes while he read the newspaper in his usual spot at the shop, it was strange. The light in Nahato's eyes, sometimes streamed like a shooting star. I can't remember what. Anyway, when I first noticed it, I was really surprised, and it made me happy. Like I had found a secret of the world that no one else knew. Whenever I found that momentary light in Nahato's eyes, I would make a wish.
早く大人になっていつかナハトと笑ってお話がしたい。そうお願いしてる。きっといつかナハトが叶えてくれるよね。
あいつの瞳の中に流れ星か知らなかったな
Very bushy.
なんだか面白い話だね確かに誰も知らない秘密かもしれないな
I bet even he doesn't know about it. Probably Soul was laughing amusingly. Then he whispered, I'm relieved. I couldn't ask what he was relieved about. The words just wouldn't come out.
チワ今夜のことはお互いにあいつには黙ってよねだけどこれからもあいつの言うこと聞くようにしてあげてほしいな もう分かってると思うけどさ、あいつはあんな風に見えてまさに怪物って感じたけどさ、とてもいいやつだから。
分かってる。
そうだね。もう分かってくれてるよね。チワは私たち二人の子だ。優しくてとても賢い。
Soul smiled. I missed the sparkling Sakura Yoru. I walked home hand in hand with Soul. Or so I thought.
ありがとう、チワ。
Soul remained standing in that spot, still holding my hand.
君のおかげであの子と娘と会えたよ。いろいろと話せた。一人ぼっちで寂しくなかったかな。君の人生は幸せだったのかな。それをどうしても最後に聞きたかった。
最後？
ありがとう、チワ。本当に君のおかげだ。
Soul said that because you gave him a push. Because you gave him Yuki, he was able to go and meet her.
今夜あの子の時間が終わってしまう最後の瞬間まで、私はあの子のそばで見守ることができた。そして夜に生まれ直したあの子の命と手をつないで、いろいろ話しながら時の終着駅まで一緒に歩いた。
Soul said that although it was a brief moment, almost instantaneous, he was sure it was a happy one. And then they arrived at the terminal station at time. There, Soul said he asked if she was angry with him or if she resented him. That question must have required immense Yuki. But the Obachan simply said, of course not.
あの子はさ、確かにいろいろなことがあった人生だったけれど、それでもそれなりに幸せな人生だったと笑ってくれた。
Soul said that hearing those words made him feel as if everything had been repaid. He said that, selfish as it, wagamama as it may be, despite everything being a one-sided emotion, in the end, he didn't have to regret giving her life.
そんなあの子が列車に乗るのを見送った。あの子がどこへ向かうための切符を買ったのかはわからないけれど、次もまた私が自分のお父さんになってほしいって、そう言ってくれて。
And at that, Soul fell silent.
ねえ、帰ろうよ。
The Yoru I looked up at was starting to widen. It was almost time for Yoru to fall asleep.
早く帰らないと、本当にナートに怒られちゃうかもしれないよ。
I tugged hard on the hand I was holding. But Soul didn't move from the spot. For some reason, tears started to spill. And then I noticed. The hand I was holding. Soul's pure white palm. The glove he always wore in that hand wasn't there. Soul was biting his lip. Soul's hand that I held. His pure white skin was cracked.
これ、どうしたの？
大丈夫、平気だよ。
I knew immediately it was a lie.
どこか痛いの？
It was a uso. I said, almost bleeding.
これは私自身が選んだことだから。だから血は気にしないで。もしも叶うなら笑顔で見送ってもらいたい。君たちに出会えてよかった。ナハトにもそう伝えておいてほしいんだ。
どういうこと？
Soul smiled as if to say, my life with the three of us together was happy.
血はずっとずっと大好きだよ。
He stroked my small head just like always.
忘れないで。
Soul closed his eyelids.
約束するよ。姿は見えなくても、声は届かなくても、
And then a flutter.
必ずいつもそばで君の手をこうしてずっと。
His last voice shattered into the yoru. Soul became countless flower petals. He spilled out from my hands. Happiness swept my feet out from under me. Soul had told me that. At first, I didn't quite understand what he meant. But now, I somehow understand. Today is my Tanjobi. It's the day the two of them decided. Sweet, delicious keiki, presento, and words of congratulations and smiles.
いつか3人で本当にお店をしながら生きていくのも悪くはないね。
I could even envision such a yume together. That's why I could feel that maybe I was here. Because I was wanted. And perhaps I was happy. That's why my feet were swept out from under me. It was my hand that killed Soul. And who killed Chiwa, whom the two Kaibatsu cherish.
私のお父さんとお母さん。
I was taught that my two important people were demons in human forms. Inhumans. Becoming a Chisai no Chisai no Hana, he vanished into the Yoru, a gentle Kaibutsu. As I tightly embraced the Hana no Jinsei and ran back to the house where Nahato was waiting, a voice called out to stop me.
やっぱりそうなってしまったのか。
And then,
だから俺らはお前みたいな人間を夜の中に住まわせるのは反対だったんだ。
or so I heard. It was a neko standing on two legs, speaking human words. Ayoru no kedomo. It seemed to have watched all tonight's events.
殺した人間の娘に殺されるだなんて。そこらによくある物語みたいにお粗末な結末じゃないか。
It wasn't a coincidence that I was abducted by the Kaibutsu of the no Yoru. I was merely a disposable life. Jinsei. Anyway, expected to turn out that way. By the time I gained consciousness, I was already there. It was a large mansion. I spent my entire day there. I'd never been outside since I was born. My world was only the world inside the many picture books I was given. I was lonely. I was sad. As such, my heart was bait to lure out the Kaibutsu no Yoru. There were many rumors in this town. One of them was the rumor of the Kaibutsu no Yoru. The rumor was that it would abduct girls trapped in a sad state, grant them eternal life, and live together with them in a mysterious Yoru world. What should have been nothing more than a common wasa in any town, however, was an event that actually happened. I was born into this world just to be abducted by such a Kaibutsu. Oto-san. Oka-san.
私は二人に褒められたことがあまりない。大きなお屋敷の中で
Yes.
名前もなくお友達もなく、ただそれとかあれとかそんな風に呼ばれ、ただ生きているだけの何かだった。
Your world, the value of your life, is always determined by what you can offer to others. My Oto-san and Oka-san kept telling me that, and I grew up with it. I was lonely. Now show us. If you want to be acknowledged as our Otomo, what exactly can you offer us? I was always looking for something that would earn me praise or recognition from them. I was sad. You understand, don't you? Get adopted quickly, otherwise, your life will have no value at all. I was unbearably lonely and sad. Those feelings, nurtured endlessly, were precisely the bait that drew in the Kaibutsu no Yoru.
そうして怪物どもにさらわれ、永遠の命を受け取った少女らを、お前の両親は怪物の元からさらにさらって、どうすると思う？
The Ijiwaru Neko said, I could only shake my head, saying I didn't know. Oh, okay. Remember about the Hiyori's route? They mentioned about how their parents, how the Hiyori's route when her grandparents were only interested in. That's why they sacrificed one of the twins. They were only interested because they were only interested in immortality or something like that. Because they were expecting that Hiyori Sakasan, Mitsuki would be like adopted, and for some reason that would also grant them eternal life or something like that. Anyway, I insisted only to be abducted by the Kaibutsu. I haven't been taught anything beyond that.
さらい直した少女のことを食らってしまうんだよ。バラバラにして、骨も残さず、その血を一滴も残さずね。そうすることで、その子の体内に宿った永遠の命を我が物として取り込める。だ、なんてな。愚かにも一部の人間は、そんな迷信に陶酔してしまっているんだよ。
Once they became adults, most humans could no longer be involved with the Yoru. Even if they tried to obtain Fushimi from within the Yoru, they couldn't. Therefore, they used the Kaibutsu, drawn in by the girl's sad feelings.
と、そう考えていたのだろう。愚かな愚かな人間たちは。そうしてチワは、お前の一つ前のチワだ。その子は怪物たちの隙をつき、お前の両親にさらわれて、食われてしまったんだよ。
Truly the act of a fiend. The mean cat, Neko said, grinning, its lips slit into its cheeks, curved out like a crescent moon.
そしてそれに激怒した怪物が、ナハトだったか？お前がそう名付けたんだよな。あいつがお前の両親をぶっ殺してしまったのさ。
That is so fucked up, man. So, the previous Chiwa was abducted by her parents. And eaten. They were eaten. She was eaten, the previous Chiwa. And then her parents were killed by Nahato as revenge.
あいつはああ見えて、人間の子らを無条件に好いてしまう側の生き物だからな。
So he's a pedophile. Anyway.
今まで可愛がり育ててきた子を、あんな風にして殺されてしまったんだ。そりゃあ逆鱗にくらい触れようというものさ。そしてあいつと共に暮らす元人間の怪物が、残された何も知らないお前を夜にさらった。そして、
the former human Kaibutsu, Soul, was killed tonight by the Union who lay in wait.
元人間の怪物は娘の最後を看取りに病院へと出かけた。そうだよな。お前がそうするようにと勧めたんだよな。はは。まんまとしてやられたな。お前は知らずあいつを罠にはめてしまったんだよ。夜の怪物の命を狙う人間たちのね。
The mischievous Neko smiled mischievously.
あいつの娘はもともと死者だ。あいつがその命を差し出し、時間を交換することで生きながらえた。しかしだ。孤児となった娘を引き取った相手が悪かった。それは長きにわたり不死を追い求めている人間の一族だったのさ。人殺しの連中だったのさ。
God damn. Jesus, God damn.
奴らは孤児を引き取ってきては使い捨てできる命として利用するんだよ。夜の怪物をおびき寄せ、少女を不死にさせ、挙句バラバラに解体し、食らうためにね。まあ、 お前はそんな一族内に生まれていてなお無才がゆえに人でなしな両親に使い捨てられようとしていたわけだがね。ともあれあいつの娘だ。あの子が夜の怪物と関係していることくらい分かった上で奴らは引き取り育てた。いつかこの子に命を授けた夜の怪物が現れる、そのはずだと当たりをつけて、今度は夜の怪物自体を生け捕り、その命を食らうことで永遠を得られないかと考えたんだろうさ。それだよ。
The mischievous Neko pointed with its gaze at the small chisai no hana in my hand.
花だ。不死の怪物の根源とも言ってもいいだろう。小さな命の花だ。次に奴らが狙ったのはそれなんだよ。奴らは夜の怪物をおびき寄せるため、あらゆる場所にあらゆる罠を仕掛け、心優しい怪物が現れるのを手ぐすね引いて待っている。奴らは表向きはこの町で芸術家として様々な活動を続けながら、その心を研ぎ澄ませることで、大人になっても夜に近しい存在でいられるよう、自身の少年少女性を保とうとする。そんな一族に引き取られたあいつの娘も、例外なく芸術という名の何かを学ぶようにと強要され続ける人生だったことだろう。
Oh shit. That made me think a little. Like, what if the other art performing families in the fucking town were at least one of them is related to that? Because I suddenly remember Toya's friend, but nothing happened to Toya anyway. But like, I don't know, man. It kind of made me think, you know, anyone who's working with art related stuff in the town are suspicious to one point. Either they're connected or it's them themselves. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. Holy shit.
そうして長い長い、一瞬ほどの長いあの子の命が終わる頃、奴らの稚拙な想定通り、あいつは現れた。お前の勧めによってな。
The mischievous Neko grinned again.
罠だよ。すべては怪物をおびき寄せるための罠だったんだ。長い長い。あまりにも気の長い罠の一つだった。そこには永遠の命を欲する人間たちが待ち構えていた。人間たちは現れたあいつを一斉に追い立てた。娘を見送った後にそうしたのは唯一の両親だったのかもしれないが、なんとか逃げおおせたのだろうが、あいつの体はもう限界だった。奴らと触れ合うというだけで、そして最後にお前と手をつなぐというだけで、あいつの時間は終わってしまった。今となっては正解をくれる者もいないが、奴らがお前を夜の怪物にさらわれたままにしておいたのも、もしかしたら奴らはこうなることが分かっていて放っておいたのかもしれないな。
That meant.
お前も奴らの仕掛けた罠の一つだったんだよ。きっとな。両親に愛されず、心優しい怪物に育てられ、愛情に飢えている幼いお前は必ずだ。自分に優しくしてくれた怪物に必ず報いようとするだろう。ああ、そうさ。それが奴らの罠だったのか。奴らの目論見通りだったのか。そんなのはどうだかはどうでもいい。結果、こうなってしまった。だから、お前は。
Then the mischievous Neko narrowed his eyes.
お前は、ここに来るべきじゃなかったんだよ、チワ。
I trudged home. Today was the first time I'd ever had my birthday celebrated since I was born. And yet, on this day, also began the day I said goodbye to Sayonara to Seoul.
ごめんなさい。
Everything. Zenbu. All of it is my fault. I expected the story to end happily and for another fun something to begin. I thought the three of us would stand before that something together, tilting our heads, making sour faces and finally laughing. I regretted it. I thought everyone was supposed to be there would be happy, but Nahato said nothing. He just kept staring endlessly at the hana in his palm, and something glittered at the corner of his eye. Just for a moment, just one. The light shimmering in Nahato's red eyes spilled out and fell like tears.
ごめんなさい。
I cried.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。こんなことになるなんて思わなかったの。
Tears spilled down, one after another, and won't stop. This world is made of many fairy tales, but I learned that not all of them can have happy endings, like in a picture book. Nahato kept staring at the hana in his palm, his crimson eyes always shining sharply. Beautiful eyes that, when looked at closely, sparkled with tiny lights. But now not a single light, like a shooting star, could be found there. You know, I love those eyes of yours. Without being able to tell you that, I hurt you.
ごめんなさい。私、ここに来なければよかった。
I ran out of the house. The Kaibutsu no Yoru never die. They're immortal beings, but there are always exceptions in this world. They don't suffer any major injuries, nor do they contract serious illnesses. Furthermore, they don't age. Their lives have stopped at some point. The exception that can kill them, that is, Ninyan. Coming into contact with Ninyan, that is the only way to kill them. There's a reason that they only kidnap human children. It's not just the tales about this town's Sakura. If they touch a human who's already fully grown in mind and body, their body will crack and crumble. Those Yoru no Kaibutsu can only interact with us when we're children. The residents of the Yoru were born from the Sakura. Their crumbling bodies return to the form of flowers, many petals, and a single small flower. We humans are creatures who find it difficult to enter Yoru once we become adults. 例えば, unless you exchange lives with someone important and become a Yoru no Kaibutsu, you can never even perceive their existence. Like the Tayo and Suki. They're incompatible. If the two meet, both will break. The reason Soul lived in the Yoru without searching for his Kodomo all this time was, if those who exchange lives meet, the exchanged life will try to return to its original owner, meaning Soul's loved one would die again. Even so, he went to see her one last time because he knew his Musume's life was nearing its end.
これが私の命の使い道か。
I can't help but recall Soul's back as he murmured that in his solitary room. It was, sure enough, a mean stray cat passing by who told me about the circumstances of those Kaibutsu. He always wore the same mean smile as if boasting about his bad taste, saying his shumi was prying into other people's affairs. I rushed out of the house, running through the Yoru in search of Soul. I remembered something I'd been told before. Those lies and in the Tayo no Jikan passed through the Yoru into the next. Into the Suki. Soul and Nahato had been searching for Chiwa every night. For the Chiwa I was named after. For the girl, my fought Otosa and Okasa in Eden. Soul might still be somewhere in this town. I hoped that if I could find Soul, no matter in what form, and lead him home, Nahato might smile. I think that was my last Saigo no Kibo. Nahato crying without shedding tears. It looked as if Nahato's body was about to crumble. His shoulders slumped. He seemed to shrink into himself. It was the first time I've seen him make such a face, or look like that. That alone was enough for me, even as a child, to understand the gravity of what I had done. At that moment, I was made to realize that there are things in this world that cannot be forgiven just because you didn't know. I ran around through the Yoru. Oops. I called out his name, called him many times, but there was no voice to answer me, and the figure I sought was nowhere to be found. I ran all over town, and before I knew it, I arrived there. It was the Ikimai. Amongst this Ikimai were countless somethings mingled. I searched for soul among the somethings coming and going, bumping into people, getting jostled. Someone mean pushed me and I tumbled. My small self collapsed right there, and I couldn't move anymore. Nami. Tears spilled, watching the trail of my own tears as they dripped down. I remember Nahato's tearless face as he cried, and I cried again. My small self just kept crying. The one who called out to me, saying, "What's wrong? What are you doing here?" was a small girl.
人間の子供がこんなところに。しかも、一人ぼっちでいるなんて珍しい。
It's Nana-chan, also known as Hiyori's. Anyway, she was wearing clothes like a train conductor. She peered into my class face, blinking her eyes repeatedly.
あなたは
Who are you? I asked.
さあ、誰なのかな。私も私がわからない。
The girl tilted her head and said,
私はただここにいるだけの何かだよ。
She wore an oversized uniform, a station attendant's cap pulled low, and walked, clutching a heavy bag slung over her shoulder.
もしかして出口がわからなくなったのかな。時々夜の中に迷い込んじゃう子がいるけれど、あなたもそう？
Did I guide you outside then? She said, and the girl gently smiled. A chisai no onna, about my size. Yet her smile ego was somehow mature, and to my younger self she looked like a savior who could help Soul and Nahato. I tearfully explained the situation to her.
残念だけど、言いにくいことだけれど、ごめんね。あなたの探している人はいくら探しても見つからないと思うよ。
The girl averted her eyes from my constantly crying self, and then she told me about the Yoru that I still knew so little about. Soul exchanged his life with someone precious. In a sense, that life was one with his musume. Was one with his musumes. Soul's time had long run out, therefore he wouldn't be reborn in this Yoru. His sayonara was the true end.
一度さよならをしてしまったものとは、もう二度と会えない。それが命に備わったこれくらいのことなら、どんなに小さくても、どんなに子供のように見えていても、人間は思いのほか賢くて、小さくてもそうでなくても、いろいろとたくさん考えながら生きている生き物だから。だからこれくらいのことわざわざ言われなくても。ああ、わかってる。
But I don't want to. Because that can be accepted. Because that can be accepted. What? And that's why I'm crying. I keep wishing someone would help me.
私はどうしたらいい？
The small me asked the small girl.
後にソルを返したい。
Nahato, gazing at the hana in his palm, didn't say anything, but he looked very, very sabishi. Nahato never says much, whether in front of Soul or in front of me. What did such a Nahato think of Soul? Just by looking at his profile, even the small me understood well.
私が二人の家に来たせいで
That was the original mistake.
私がソルにとっての死神だったんだ。
Nahato was initially against me living in their house. I should have left without saying anything back then. On the first day I chased them into the Yoru. I should have let Yoru residents eat me, mistaking me for the Yoru no O. As regret. There's no end to counting how many there are.
お願い、なんだってする。どんなことだって我慢する。私の全部をあげるから。だからお願いします。
Dakara, onegai, kami-sama. Kid Nahato is important tomodachi or tomodachi back. Oh, is it a coincidence that she's talking to Nana-chan when she's thinking about kami-sama? Although there was silence. I missed only the rustling and noisy clamor of the school grounds. School grounds? Was it a station grounds or whatever? Anyway, the girl asked, "Do you have resolve?"
ねえ、小さな女の子。
The girl said she wanted me to answer.
あなたはあなた自身がその人にとっての死神だったんだとそう言っていたけれどどうなのかな。こんなにも小さくてこんなにも泣き虫なあなたにあなたが殺してしまったという怪物をよみがえらせるそれだけの覚悟があるのかな。そんなの
Of course, I answered that I did.
どんなに辛くてももちろんだよ。
I answered that I didn't mind.
どんなに怖くても
I replied that I was fine.
どんなに辛くて怖くても私はお願いだよ。安易にうなずいたりしないでほしい。
The girl interrupted my words.
いい？ちゃんとしっかり想像力を働かせてほしいんだ。想像力。そうよくよく考えて答えてほしい。辛いこと怖いこと悲しいことこの世にはありとあらゆるそれらが溢れてる。
Oh shit, I think she was supposed to say something, but there was a long pause. Yuki. Soul and the two of them said, I need to learn something to overcome future difficulties myself. Soul had taught me that it was Yuki. That's all that's ever needed, so I...
もう一度だけ聞くよ。女の子。もう二度と泣かず、強く、あなたの夢を叶えられるまで、決して諦めないと誓える。
I nod.
誓います。
Yuki. What would I do if I couldn't show that Yuki here and now? The Yuki soul wished for me to learn.
強くなる。
I ruined their precious time together. It would have been better if I wasn't there. So at the very least, I want to become the kind of person the two who raised me will one day be proud of. I have to.
もう二度と泣かないし、この願いを叶えるまで、決して諦めない。絶対何があっても、私は平気。
The girl stared intently into my eyes, and I stared back without averting my gaze.
そう。わかった。
The girl nodded. Then she held out her small hand to me, as if to say, Come on, take this hand.
これは契約だよ。契 役？うん。あなたの願いを叶えてあげる。何もかもがうまくいけば、さよならをしてしまった人を取り戻せる。本当に？
I thought of Nahato. If I could bring Soul back, would he stop crying? Would he smile?
だけど、その代わり、あなたのその願いを、夢を叶えてあげる代わりに、あなたに救ってほしいものがあるんだよ。何を救うの？私が？あなたが、あなたたちが救うのは、
The girl tilted her head and said in a small voice,
この世界そのものだよ。
At such an outrageous answer, I was dumbfounded. Sekai? Say the Sekai? Skudo Sekai.
すべての命を食らい尽くすのだと言われてる夜の王。それが出現する場所が分かったんだよ。あなたがこの手を取るのなら、これからあなたを私が夜の王が出現すると推測されるポイントにまで連れて行く。同じようにして集められたあなたたちには、そこでそれぞれに適した魔法を学び、力を合わせてそれを倒してほしいんだ。世界を救うために？そうだね。この世界とあなたたち人間の未来を守る、そのために。でも倒すなんて、そんなことどうやって？
The Yoruno. All I knew was its name. What it truly was. What it looked like. I knew nothing. Yet,
この手を取れば、あなたはこの世界を救うための刃となる。
the girl said that's how it would be, whether I wish for it or not.
私はこの世界を救う心の力を備えた子たちを探してる。きっとあなたの願いは世界を救う。そう感じられたよ。あなたの強い思いは私に届いた。
The girl said that the power of the heart was the power of wishes. The power of wishes would become the weapon to fight the Yoruno.
その願い、あるいは夢が途方もなく大きなものであればあるだけ、きっとその願いは、その夢はやはり途方もない力となるはずだから、覚えておいて。あなたの救いの主は私なんかじゃない。あなた自身だよ。あなたが自分自身の願いを信じられるのなら、心の強さを守り続けられると誓うのなら。
The girl smiled.
さあ、出かけよう。あなたの願いを叶えるために、大切な人を取り戻す、そのために、私と一緒に夜の先へと、その最果てへと出かけよう。人生に一度だけの大冒険が待ってるよ。
Watashi. I took the hand offered to me as if to dispel the slight hesitation I felt. I really had to end it here. I had to get going. I'm late for something, despite it's midnight. Okay, looks like a good stopping point. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I'll see you guys on the next upload. Ciao.